The arithmetic seemed absurd. On June the 2nd, 1943, 8 Junkers Ju-88 heavy fighters, each armed with forward-firing 20mm cannons and crewed by experienced Luftwaffe pilots, attacked a single short Sunderland flying boat over the Bay of Biscay. The mathematics suggested a massacre: 8 fighters with superior speed, maneuverability, and firepower versus one lumbering patrol bomber doing 215 miles per hour should have produced a quick kill. Instead, the engagement lasted 45 minutes. The Sunderland fired over 7,000 rounds from 14 machine gun positions. 3 Ju-88s went down confirmed. 2 more limped away severely damaged. The remaining 3 broke off the attack. The Sunderland, riddled with 500 bullet holes, 1 engine dead, radio destroyed, most crew wounded, nursed itself 350 miles back to Britain and beached at Cornwall. The pilot received the Distinguished Service Order. The Germans called the Sunderland Fliegendes Stachelschwein, the Flying Porcupine. This wasn't heroics. This was industrial design solving an economic problem. The Battle of the Atlantic represented an arithmetic crisis. German U-boats could sink merchant ships faster than British shipyards could replace them. In 1940, U-boats destroyed over 1,000 Allied vessels. By mid-1942, they were sinking 160 ships monthly. Churchill later wrote that the U-boat threat was the only thing that frightened him during the entire war. The solution required long-range maritime patrol aircraft capable of finding submarines, attacking them, and, critically, surviving the encounter. The Sunderland emerged from commercial economics rather than military specification. In 1933, the Air Ministry issued Requirement R.2/33 for a 4-engine reconnaissance flying boat. Short brothers already possessed the answer. Their S.23 Empire-class flying boats served Imperial Airways across global routes. The company simply militarized an existing commercial design. This approach eliminated development risk, reduced costs, and accelerated delivery. The Air Ministry ordered the prototype in March 1936, 18 months before it flew. The conversion process was straightforward arithmetic. Take the S-23's proven aerodynamic hull and 4 Bristol Pegasus radial engines. Add powered gun turrets in nose and tail, a first for RAF flying boats. Strengthen the structure for military loads. Install bomb racks for 2,000 pounds of ordnance. The wingspan remained 112 feet. Length stayed at 85 feet. Empty weight increased from 24,000 to 34,500 pounds. Maximum weight grew to 58,000 pounds fully loaded. The modifications transformed a luxury airliner carrying 24 passengers into a patrol bomber with an 11-man crew. The first Sunderland Mark I flew from the River Medway on the 16th of October, 1937. Chief Test Pilot John Lancaster Parker reported handling characteristics similar to the civilian version, but with significantly different center of gravity due to turret weight. The wings received 4 degrees of sweepback to compensate, a compromise that canted the engines slightly outboard but improved single-engine controllability. Production deliveries began June 1938 when the second aircraft joined 230 Squadron at RAF Seletar, Singapore. By September 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, RAF Coastal Command operated 40 Sunderlands. The initial operational value wasn't submarine hunting. Sunderlands lacked effective detection equipment or weapons. Early missions focused on search and rescue. On 21 September 1939, 2 Sunderlands rescued 34 crew members from the torpedoed merchant ship Kensington Court. The flying boats could land in relatively calm seas, taxi to survivors, and take off again, capabilities no land-based aircraft possessed. This rescue capacity alone justified production costs during the war's first year. The defensive armament created the Porcupine reputation. Mark the worst production aircraft carried 7.303-inch Browning machine guns, 1 in the nose turret, 2 in beam hatches, 4 in the tail turret. By 1940, improved variants added a second nose gun and 2 more in an upper dorsal turret. The Mark III, introduced in 1942, relocated some guns but maintained heavy coverage. Australian crews field-modified their aircraft by adding 4 fixed forward-firing .303s in the nose for strafing attacks. Some installations included .50 caliber heavy machine guns at beam positions. The maximum configuration approached 18 guns, more defensive firepower than any regular British aircraft. The gun count created psychological impact, but the positioning created tactical effectiveness. Ju-88 pilots attacking a Sunderland faced fire from multiple angles regardless of approach vector. A stern attack encountered 4 tail guns. Beam attacks drew fire from dorsal and side positions. Frontal passes, theoretically the safest, met nose turret fire plus the pilot's fixed guns on later variants. The Sunderland couldn't outrun fighters or outmaneuver them. It could shoot back from every direction simultaneously. The 3rd of April 1940 engagement off Norway demonstrated the concept. 6 Ju-88Cs attacked a single Sunderland. The flying boat shot down 1 fighter, damaged a second badly enough to force it into emergency landing, and drove off the remaining 4. The Germans learned that attacking Sunderlands carried substantial risk. That lesson was reinforced repeatedly. The Flying Porcupine nickname supposedly originated from these encounters, though some sources suggest it referenced the radar antenna arrays that bristled from later variants. The 2nd of June 1943 battle over the Bay of Biscay became legendary. Sunderland EJ-134N for nuts from 461 Squadron RAAF carried 11 crew, 9 Australians, 2 Britons, commanded by Flight Lieutenant Colin Walker. They were hunting for U-boats while also searching for wreckage from BOA Sea Flight 777, a civilian airliner shot down the previous day carrying actor Leslie Howard among 13 passengers and crew. At 1900 hours, the rear gunner spotted 8 U-88Cs from Kampfgeschwader 40, led by Lieutenant Friedrich Meider. Walker immediately dumped bombs and depth charges to reduce weight and fire-lit all 4 engines to full power. 2 U-88s made simultaneous passes from both sides. They scored hits, disabled 1 engine, started fires. Walker threw the Sunderland into corkscrew maneuvers, violent banking and diving that threw off fighter aim while keeping defensive guns engaged. The dorsal gunner hit a Ju-88 badly enough that it appeared to go down. The rear gunner was knocked unconscious but recovered. Another attacking Ju-88 took fire from nose and dorsal positions and left the fight. A frontal pass saw the front gunner set a Ju-88's engines ablaze. The engagement continued for 45 minutes across at least 20 separate attack runs. 1 crew member died from wounds. Most others were injured. Radio gear was destroyed along with compass, airspeed indicator, and fuel gauges reading empty. The Sunderland had fired 7,000 rounds, effectively the entire ammunition load. Walker pointed the crippled aircraft toward Britain and prayed. At 22:48 hours, he beached EJ-134 at Pras Sands, Cornwall. 10 survivors waded ashore as the aircraft broke up in surf. German records from Kampfgeschwader 40 reported the engagement but listed no losses that day, creating historical debate about actual kill counts versus claims. The fight definitely occurred. Whether 3 Ju-88s actually went down remains uncertain. The strategic mathematics were clear regardless of exact scores. German fighters learned that attacking Sunderlands meant accepting casualties. This deterrent effect magnified Sunderland effectiveness beyond direct U-boat kills. Simply by being formidably defended, Sunderlands could operate in contested airspace where vulnerable aircraft couldn't survive. This extended patrol ranges and increased convoy coverage, which saved merchant ships through presence rather than combat. The submarine hunting capability improved through technological evolution rather than design changes. October 1941 brought ASV Mark II radar with distinctive aerials mounted on the fuselage and wings. This primitive system could detect surfaced U-boats at several miles range. Enough warning for submarines to crash dive, but also enough time for Sunderlands to reach attack position. From 1942, improved depth charges replaced ineffective bombs. The new weapons used Torpex explosive, sank to preset depths and detonated to create devastating shock waves through water. U-boat pressure hulls couldn't withstand the crushing force. The Germans responded with enhanced U-boat anti-aircraft armament. By mid-1943, submarines carried 37mm cannons and quad 20mm flak guns. Some U-boat commanders chose to fight on the surface rather than dive when aircraft approached. This tactical shift temporarily reduced U-boat losses while inflicting casualties on attacking aircraft. The Sunderland's heavy defensive armament proved critical during this period. Lighter patrol bombers couldn't suppress U-boat flak while attacking. Sunderlands could use nose guns to strafe the conning tower while making bombing runs, keeping German gunners under cover during critical approach seconds. The operational tempo was relentless. Missions lasted 10 to 13 hours routinely, sometimes longer. Crews lived aboard their aircraft between flights when moored to buoys at coastal bases. The Sunderland's size accommodated relative luxury. A galley for hot meals, bunks for off-duty crew, enough space to move around during marathon patrols. This habitability reduced crew fatigue compared to cramped patrol bombers, improving alertness during critical detection and combat moments. Some pilots joked about the flying boat hotel, but the amenities translated into operational effectiveness. By war's end, Sunderlands were credited with destroying 28 U-boats directly and assisting in 7 more kills. The first unassisted victory came 17 July 1940, when an RAAF Sunderland from 10 Squadron caught U-boat on the surface. The total seems modest against 783 U-boats lost during the Battle of the Atlantic, but the deterrent effect, convoy protection, and search and rescue missions multiplied the Sunderland's strategic value beyond simple kill ratios. Every U-boat forced to submerge lost its speed advantage. Every submarine commander who hesitated before attacking a convoy because Sunderlands patrolled overhead represented arithmetic in Britain's favour. Production totals reflected sustained demand. Mark I's production reached 90 aircraft, including 15 from Blackburn. Mark II introduced upgraded Bristol Pegasus 18 engines with 2-speed superchargers and dorsal turret. 58 were built. Mark III featured revised hull planing, improved radar, and powered nose turret. 407 were constructed. Mark V switched to American Pratt & Whitney R1830 twin Wasp engines for better single-engine performance. 155 were built new, with another 33 converted from Mark III. Total production reached 749 aircraft by June 1946, when the last delivery occurred. The service life extended well beyond World War II. Sunderland's flew convoy protection during the Korean War from 1950 to 1954, operating from Iwakuni, Japan, with 88, 205, and 209 squadrons rotating deployments. Daily missions still lasted 10 to 13 hours. The Royal New Zealand Air Force operated Sunderlands until 1967, the longest service of any operator. French Navy Escadrille 7FE continued flying them until December 1960, the last Northern Hemisphere unit. The flying boat era ended not from obsolescence, but from airport infrastructure. Jet-powered land-based patrol aircraft could operate from existing runways anywhere, while flying boats required sheltered water. The economic argument for the Sunderland was compelling throughout its service. The aircraft solved multiple problems simultaneously: long-range maritime patrol, convoy protection, search and rescue, anti-submarine warfare, and self-defense in contested airspace. No single mission aircraft provided equivalent versatility. The wooden construction of wartime heavy bombers proved cheaper per pound than metal flying boats, but bombers couldn't land to rescue survivors or operate from forward bases lacking runways. The Sunderland's multi-role capability justified its cost, despite being expensive compared to land-based alternatives. The Flying Porcupine nickname captured essential truth about wartime economics. 14 machine guns didn't make the Sunderland a fighter. They made it survivable enough to perform missions other aircraft couldn't attempt. The defensive firepower was insurance against mission loss rather than offensive capability. Every Sunderland that returned from patrol could fly again tomorrow. Every crew that survived an engagement retained their experience for the next mission. The mathematics of attrition favored aircraft that could defend themselves well enough to come home. The 2nd of June 1943 battle demonstrated this arithmetic perfectly. Even if German records accurately showed no confirmed Ju-88 losses, the attack failed. EJ-134 survived. The crew survived. The Luftwaffe lost 45 minutes, substantial ammunition, and possibly multiple aircraft to battle damage. They gained nothing. That exchange rate, 0 losses to complete mission failure, represented exactly what the Sunderland design achieved. Not victory through firepower, but mission success through survivability. The strategic lesson was clear. In maritime patrol operations, adequate defensive armament on a survivable platform beat specialized capabilities on vulnerable aircraft. The Sunderland wasn't the longest-ranged patrol bomber. It wasn't the fastest or highest flying. It couldn't close the mid-Atlantic gap without refueling. But it could stay over contested waters where submarines operated, fight off interceptors, attack U-boats that surfaced to engage, and bring its crew home. That combination, presence, persistence, and survival, was worth every machine gun. The Germans called it the Flying Porcupine because attacking it hurt. The British flew it for 29 years because building defensible platforms that crews trusted represented better arithmetic than designing perfect aircraft that died on first contact with the enemy. The Sunderland proved that adequate weapons immediately available beat perfect weapons that never reached the mission. 14 machine guns weren't the solution. They were the insurance policy that let the actual solution, long-range maritime patrol, succeed.